At this briefing, as I said, we have an exciting and important announcement to make. I won't take any of the shine away, though, from the team that will be making that official announcement, but I will just get into the introductory remarks and also just introduce our panel. To my left, I've got the Premier of the Western Cape, Mr. Alan Windy, and then joining us online all the way from the Southern Cape, Riversdale more specifically, our team at Hessequa Municipality, Mayor Grant Riddles, as well as the Deputy Mayor and the Municipal Manager and the Chief Electrical Engineer at that municipality. So as you can guess, we will be making an announcement, or should I say the Mayor will be making an announcement on efforts by the municipality to reduce and eventually end load shedding over time. But we'll give more details on that as we proceed. I'll now hand over to the Premier for his introductory remarks. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you very much, Regan, and a very warm welcome. Normally, we have a Digicon on energy. Today, that Digicon was on gender-based violence. We are now having a press conference, and this press conference is about energy. So a little bit of a mix there. But before I start, and as usual, I'll just give a little bit of an update of what's happening this week. So the Minister of Finance in the province, Minister Murray Wenger, tabled the medium-term budget policy statement this week, and also the adjustments budget. This is where we have an opportunity in our parliamentary approved budget to make some changes or some tweaks. One of the big issues that we have is the outside of our control and nationally negotiated above inflation rate and budgeted for wage agreements, and they have huge consequences to service delivery in provinces. And so in this province, we have a 1.1 billion rand deficit in year. That means this year we have to go and find another 1.1 billion rand just to top up the wages and salaries of government workers in this province. Now, we don't have that in our budget, and in order for us to do that, we're going to have to cut frontline services. Now, that is absolutely unacceptable, and so what we've done is we have lodged an intergovernmental dispute. If those negotiations are done at a national level, then the National Treasury must make sure that we get the funding over and above our already agreed budget. So we've declared that dispute. That dispute, we've given them until the 6th of December to come back to us on our declaration. Otherwise, we will go to court, and we will see them in court to get our 1.1 billion, because we need to protect the citizen services in the Western Cape, and that's why we're doing it. Also this week, I just want to highlight that we've been handing out energy packs. We have a 5,700 megawatt plan in the Western Cape to become energy self-sufficient. Now, many facets to that plan are how do we enable municipalities to have solar panels, or to have batteries, or to have other technologies through tender processes to solve the load shedding problem. How do we, as a government, enable and work with those municipalities, whether it be getting a resource plan in place for the province, whether it be having World Bank partnerships with engineers that can help us with the complexities of something that we've never done before. Or what about the vulnerable citizens who can't put small embedded generation on their roof, solar panels and battery systems in their homes or their businesses, or like big business is fending off or making sure that they are not affected by load shedding? Poor communities are not able to do this. With high inflation rates, the cost of food going up, and load shedding levels like we are suffering at the moment with level 6, poorer citizens can't afford candles, paraffin lamps, batteries for torches anymore. And we've started with these packs, and the handing out of these packs. It's a solar battery pack with 2 lights attached to it on board. It's got a cell phone charger. It's got plugs that you can plug in, extensions with 3 other LED lights. and it has a solar panel charging facility as well as an electrical charging facility. At the moment, we are handing them out to vulnerable citizens in our shelters, in our women's shelters specifically, women and children, and I've been with the Minister of Social Development handing out these packs, and we will be rolling them out this month. And then, of course, in the beginning of the year, we'll also be starting to roll them out towards vulnerable citizens, poorer citizens, so that we can actually have education supported, that you can read to your child at night, which is really critical, or your child can learn and study for school. We've got to make sure that we are getting the whole ecosystem to work. But the real reason we're here today is a press conference and an announcement on a program. This is the journey to end load shedding across the province. And part of our energy plan is to say, how do we not only enable and support the bigger municipalities like Cape Town, which has already gone out on a number of big tenders for energy, a 200 megawatt tender, another 500 megawatt tender. They're already mitigating 2 levels of load shedding, etc. Or for example, what we've showcased on the Digicons with what's happening in George, or the announcements in Saldanha Bay, or we're expecting in some of the other bigger municipalities. What about some of our smaller towns? And how do we help our smaller towns become much more resilient? How do we start that process of ending load shedding in those towns? And it is really exciting for me to have the team that have joined us today from Hessequa. We are making funding available as part of this plan to this municipality over the next few years. This initial transfer will be 69 million rand this year, and we will follow through into a 193 million rand project. This is making sure that we are helping our citizens. And the reason that we have this municipality with us, and I'm going to hand over to the mayor shortly, but we have a municipality that is prepared to say, give us a chance, we will try. We must say that, we've never done this before. And, we need to be able to learn as we go. We need outliers. We need municipalities who've got mayors who are prepared or have the guts to take a chance and back up with their councils and back up with their administrations to say, we understand the risks here, but we're going to take a chance. And this province is going to back this municipality on taking that chance. Now, we know this municipality likes innovation. We know they like pushing boundaries. This municipality is the municipality, if you remember back to the droughts, was the first municipality on the African continent to have a solar-powered desalination plant. So it makes sense that this is a municipality that's prepared to stand up and say, we'll walk this journey with you, Western Cape. We will go and learn. We'll try things. We'll innovate. And let's us set a journey as a town in the province that's really pushing those boundaries to end load shedding, to start the process. And of course, it's not going to be a switch that's going to be turned. It's going to be laying out this year solar panels. It's going to be putting batteries in next year. It's a process, but the competition is on, and I look forward to this journey. This is let me get the mayor to talk about the size, etc., and how many panels. But for me, it's really exciting. We live in an environment where we are seeing, I think at the moment there is manufacture and assembly of solar panels in our country by a multitude of companies, up to 5 megawatts worth of power that's being pulled together by these companies. And of course, what we're enabling here is a place for these companies to go out through a tender process and put those panels up. We've got solar PV that's going up across the board. We are really transitioning the region to a much better carbon footprint with a number of green solutions. And this, again, is a municipality that's going to step up with a green solution. So with those words of introduction, it is an exciting day for me. And I really want to thank this municipality for stepping up. Ons gaan dit doen. Burgemeester, ek is baie trots om oor te handig. Thank you very much for being that municipality. So, Mayor Riddles, if I can hand over to you in this press conference to tell us exactly how you're going to use our money. Of course, remember, you're topping it up with your money, because we also don't believe in just handouts. We believe in partnerships. And of course, together, we are going to make sure that we lead in helping not only our big municipalities like a city or the bigger municipalities in the province, we can actually do this in smaller municipalities as well. So, Mayor, over to you.
Thank you, Premier. I just want to welcome you all. I just want in my left, it's a speaker and the deputy mayor here. They will speak later, but MM will do the technical aspect of the project. Good day, Premier, media colleagues. Let me begin by expressing my gratitude for the Premier and the Western Cape government. We are very honored and grateful and thankful for the opportunity created for Hessequa community, in specific Riversdale, to be part of this great pilot project. Hessequa consists of 10 towns, Premier. Albertinia, Gouwertsmond, Riversdale, Stilbaai, Jongersfontein, Merketsfontein, Slangenrivier, Witstrand, Heidelberg, and Vermaaklikheid. The total population of 72,000, on which Riversdale is the biggest with 22,000 residents, with 6,851 households. This project will help with economic development and growth, job creation, and business will get the opportunity to thrive. This project will also have a positive effect on small and medium-sized enterprises and other businesses. I would like to take the opportunity to thank our MM, Mrs. de Klerk, our technical team, Director, Mr. Mano, and Mr. Silence Chikami, for all your hard work and effort that you invested in this project this far. I also like to thank our council for approving this project. This marks the beginning of greater things to come for Hessequa. Hessequa is walking into a season of light, Premier. MM, can you give more details about the project? And I just want to highlight how much important is this project for Hessequa and for Riversdale.
Thank you, Mayor. From a technical perspective, this project saw the light yesterday as the council approved it, and it was also sanctioned by the Energy Council from the Western Cape under the leadership of the Premier. The project is about over 210 million rands worth. That equates at this stage to a situation where we're going to have solar, which is going to provide 10 megawatt peak in terms of the solar. But what we've realized with all the studies is that even if you have generating capacity at your plants and you have solar, there's a golden link, and that link comes with BESS. It's a battery energy storage system. And what makes this project quite unique is the fact that we have the battery energy source part of this project, and that's going to give us the opportunity that if you need to deal with energy crisis in terms of load shedding, that we can also deal with when there's no sunlight available. And that is the big difference, because you're going to have the solar benefit when there's huge sunshine or a great day and there's no clouds, and you have that ability. But the BESS, the battery energy system, is going to tie that over. What also makes Riversdale a specific contributor to this is that in the 1950s, the previous forefathers had the wisdom to do a 1 megavolt, a 1 MVA power station. And a lot of that infrastructure that allows us to generate electricity is now going to be augmented by this new green energy. And it's going to take us into the future, and it's going to actually build on huge planning and great planning that was done by previous engineers. The benefit is obviously going to be that we will be able then to, as the Premier announced, reduce initially, and later on, as we can step this project up, we would get to a stage where we can deal with load shedding and also with energy shaving and energy saving. And the shaving is specifically that you have a situation that you can assist Eskom, that you reduce your maximum demand, which is a huge cost in the average municipality. It's also something that I'm quite proud of, that it was endorsed by the full council. It means that the communities would also step up into this project, and it's going to be to the benefit of everybody. This is a project that's not just going to look at businesses, but it's also going to change significantly the matriculants that needs to study. It's going to help the elderly that also cannot afford to do this huge investment in terms of solar PV systems at their residences. So I see a huge project from this side. What is going to be technically quite difficult, Hessequa is not one of the biggest municipalities, as we have heard. It's going to be to put this project within budget, within time. On the ground, we have limited time to get this project on the ground. And I know there's going to be mistakes, but we will learn from that and then assist our fellow colleagues in the Western Cape. The one reality is we will only be able to solve electricity town by town. We cannot have a big bang approach, and I think the lessons that we will learn from this project is well for everybody, and it's going to be a steep learning curve for us, of course, but we are looking forward to the assistance that we'll be getting from the Premier's office and his team under the leadership of Alvi Lester. In short, that 10 megawatt peak plant is going to entail 18,500 solar panels that we're going to install on a farm that is owned by the municipality, and that's going to equate to about 40 hectares that we need to fence and put up security measures to protect the infrastructure, from where it will feed into a dedicated municipal infrastructure line that allows us to switch between Eskom and our own grid. That would also augment the problem that we don't interfere with the load shedding of Eskom, but we're able to deal with that within our own grid and within our own frame in terms of infrastructure. I think that gives a little bit of background in terms of what the project entails. The anticipated launching of this is obviously over a period of maximum 3 years. The first year is the solar plant, the year thereafter the base, and then the tie-up, and then basically the balancing of the network to get into this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. de Klerk, and thank you, Mayor Riddles. I think we'll now move to the question and answer portion of this media conference. And the first question has already come through via WhatsApp, and it's another critical question. When can we expect this project to get underway, and what are the timeframes generally for this kind of project? We all know that, and we've been told, and we emphasize the point repeatedly, that unfortunately the energy crisis cannot be solved overnight as much as we'd like to do. It is far too complex, and it is far too big to simply solve it overnight. But what are those timeframes that your municipality is looking at to start getting this project moving?
Regan, if I can respond to that. The reality is that after the approval of council, there's a couple of capital incentives that we need to get to, and also there's a couple of key milestones in the project plan. The first one now is that this farmland needs to be dealt with, and we need to obtain an ROD. That takes a period of time, which we will obviously then deal. While we deal with that, we will have a parallel process, because the first 69 million from government, from the Western Cape, has already been gazetted, and it must be spent through the bank account of the municipality before the end of June. So some of the material we will already start acquiring while we deal with that part. Then following that, the Premier has alluded to it, and he's 100% right. The first phase is focusing on the ROD, getting the solar panels and then installing it on the farm, the security aspect. That will itself not generate energy. Then we get to the battery systems, and then we need to tie it in the second and third year into our grid and synchronize it, because you cannot just switch it on. It's not like at your residence. It's not a small installation. When you talk about 10 MVA, it's a significant one, and you need to synchronize that. We also want to make sure that when we initiate this project in 3 years' time, that it is a success. It might be quicker than 3 years, but we anticipate 2.5 to 3 years for the commissioning of that. And that means that we have every week, it sounds maybe strange, but every week we have a situation that we need to have certain critical milestones met. I saw the question, ROD is a record of decision when you deal with zoning of land, where you get environmental authorization to erect or construct certain infrastructure on farmland. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk. Another question has just come through. If you could just explain what is an ROD.
Yes, I've just alluded to that. A record of decision is obtained from the Department of Environmental and Agricultural DAAP, and that is authorization to a municipality. You cannot just get into any land and just construct lily-willy. There's an application process for that through an environmental specialist, and the council's already gone into a process where this individual with the required speciality or company will be appointed. We anticipate that appointment to be done latest by January, where we will initiate the process.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk. Just before we resume with the question and answer session, I'd just like to welcome Mr. Albie Lester as well to the panel. Of course, the special advisor on all things energy related to the Premier, and of course the Western Cape Infrastructure Minister, Mr. Tertius Simmers, also joining us here. Let's proceed. Another question has come through. Also just looking for clarity on the timeframes. It's being asked here, before the 3 years, will we be able to see fewer stages of load shedding in the Hessequa municipality? And also being asked here, perhaps as early as next year. Mr. de Klerk, could you maybe field that?
Yes. The short answer is that as the solar panels are introduced and there is sunshine, and we're able to link that into our substation, we might be able to deal with some of that. But the earliest that will be happening is December 2024, not before. And it comes down to, I've explained that you need to synchronize that energy source into the grid. And that's a specialized field. Fortunately, we have that expertise within our current administration.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk. Another question, somebody asking for some clarity on this journey. I think we've spoken about this project as a journey, and maybe this question, Mr. Lester and the Premier can also weigh in on here. What's been happening behind the scenes? And we've got the Energy Council, which is driving the energy resilience program. But maybe we could start with Mr. Lester and the Premier, just in terms of how we got to this point, to get to where Riversdale will be, how we chose Riversdale, or how pretty much everybody had to how they put their hands up to say we're willing to take a shot at this.
Well, thank you, Regan. I think firstly the process started probably more than 6 months ago, probably closer to 8 months ago. We had the idea that we could potentially take
Drop.
And then we further had additional criteria then that led us to the point where we now sit with a choice of Hessequa being the municipality. I think one of the key components to us making the choice was, one, that we needed to see that whatever town or whatever municipality that we were going to look at, that there would be an economic benefit. That, one, we would be able to, over a period of time, buffer the town and the municipality against load shedding. Secondly, that the load was not too big, in that we wanted to make sure that we were staying under particular megawatts so that we don't necessarily trigger different land use issues. And more importantly, we wanted the project to be able to actually act as a pilot and give us information and indication that could we actually explore and actually scale this to other municipalities going forward. And I think Hessequa is really the culmination of the 8 months of hard work between provincial government, municipalities, and particularly Hessequa in the last few months. We've had quite a bit of engagement. In fact, we've had multiple site visits to Hessequa just to make sure that we were all on the same page. I do think what does carry quite heavily in Hessequa's favor is that they've got an existing system, solar, that has been used for their desalination plant. They've also got a SCADA system where they're actually able to manage their network. And they do have the capacity in the municipality to actually manage generation. And I think those weigh quite heavily in their favor in terms of what we could do. But yes, I think the potential for this to be expanded, I think we'll see as the pilot unfolds what we can do next.
Thank you very much. Is there anything to add?
No, I think that's
Pretty comprehensive,
I think
yes.
that's comprehensive.
Great, thank you. Another question, and maybe Mr. de Klerk, you'd be best placed to field this. Do you have your own grid, or will the municipality be feeding energy into or through the Eskom grid?
It's a simple answer. We have our own grid, and that was built based on the fact that we had this power station that we were able to run. So there is a situation that we will have the main feed from Eskom. Our system will be grid tied, and we have a backup line that should that fail, but we will not interfere with the Eskom infrastructure when we commission this plant. It will be separate from that, and it will then be feeding into the municipal grid. That's something that Mr. Lester, as he explained, in the 8 months that we worked in the consecutive meetings that we had, that was also a critical factor, that we don't have a situation that we are dependent on third parties in terms of wheeling and that the municipality can control that.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk. And while you're on the screen there, I think it was mentioned by the Premier earlier, but the cost of this pilot project.
Yes. At this stage, we estimate that the current rate, the cost would be in excess of 210 million, 213 million. The provincial contribution is 173 million over 3 years, of which the first tranche will be released, 69 million. From the municipality, we will also chip in. As the Premier said, he doesn't believe in handouts. So there's going to be a 40 million initial contribution from the municipality. And obviously, we will be responsible for some of the operational issues in terms of insurance and the security measures for this. It is a difficult project. And as we said, it's a pilot. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it unfolds as the project is actually initiated and then commissioned.
Thank you very much. Another question here, maybe Mayor Riddles, you'd be best placed to field this question. It's a general question just asking, do you have any kind of price tag as to how much load shedding over the past, I've lost count, 15 years plus has cost your municipality, has cost your region, has cost all the towns that you are responsible for?
Hi, good day. I'm Andrew Struble. Yes, it's not about the cost factor in rand sense. It's in the livelihood of our people. And over the few years, and we can not go back 15 years, we can go 5 years. And the escalation we had from stage 2 8 years ago till now constant stage 6. And children with exams, churches, schools, businesses. So the livelihood cost is more than the rand's cost for us. And that's why this project brings hope. It brings opportunity, and hopefully we can bring the hope for the residents of Hessequa. Thank you.
Regan, can I also contribute
Yes,
to that?
sure.
I think it's important what the Speaker of Council have just alluded to, but we also need to underscore that when we did the investigations with Mr. Lester, we also looked at if it's possible and feasible to reconfigure and redistribute, basically overall, the power station. And we realized that it is not possible, and the green energy would be in the long term a viable solution for the municipality. And just for this year, in our own operational budget, we had to bring 23 million rands additional just for diesel to run these generators that at this stage is all over the plants. And you want to augment that. So just in the current financial year, there's a huge burden on the municipality on that.
Thank you. Another question, 2 questions actually, but we'll go through them one by one. Is maintenance of the solar panels and battery replacement, are they also factored into these figures, into the overall budget?
The multi-year budget that goes to the region of 15 years, in that budget, yes, we do make provision for it. But in the short term, the next MTF, the 3 years, is installation and commission. The cleaning of the solar panels normally starts in the 2nd to 3rd year, and your 1st year, obviously, they're still brand new, and also under factory warranties and guarantees.
And follow-up question, and I think time for just one last one. Just to clarify, are you aiming to be load shedding free in 3 years' time? And will the power be cheaper than Eskom's power?
One of the realities is that we have, from the beginning, said that we want to do a LOC, a localized level of cost that is comparable to Eskom, that we know what the electricity that we produce through this plant would actually cost the municipality, because there needs to be a reasonable competitiveness with this technology to what Eskom provides. It's important also to understand that while Eskom is dealing with their own issues, we also still need to maintain and upgrade our own internal infrastructure and ensure that once that is sorted out, the reality is that we don't have at a municipal level the load shedding that Eskom has now sorted out. So that infrastructure, the maintenance of that is important. At this stage, we reckon if we implement this project within budget and cost, we will have a small saving where the energy cost of Eskom is running around about 2 rand a unit. We will probably get it at 1.93 rand, 1.94. So there's a small benefit to that. And that is what we are trying. And if this pilot works, it will give a basis that the Premier can go literally, and he can talk on the radios and say, guys, we've did it in the Western Cape, we've done it in a rural municipality, and this is the success story. It does unfortunately take time. I mean, Mr. Lester referred to it. Behind the scenes, there was 8 months of vigorous working and competing for this project. It was not the Energy Council one day decided, no, it's going to be Hessequa, and there it is. We had to really do a lot of homework and compete for this, for which we are grateful that we are selected.
Thank you so much for that. So time for one more question. And I think Mr. Lester and the Premier, maybe you could deal with this one. It's being asked, we've made this announcement, Riversdale is now going to get out of the blocks. Do we have it in us? Do we have the energy? I couldn't resist saying that. Do we have the money? I couldn't resist saying that as well. I know that's a swear word, but to maybe expand this to other municipalities. So in other words, can we upscale this? Can we welcome more bids from municipalities over time, of course?
So in our initial thinking, we had actually looked at potentially doing a number of municipalities. I think the reality is that we now need to phase that. The pilot is quite critical because it gives us the data for us to understand what it is that we need leading up to future decisions for this. The one thing I do want to say that, if there was the potential for us to go to other municipalities and other towns, if Hessequa is online just with their solar by December and with their BES within 24 months after that, the cost of solar and BES over that 3 years will significantly drop. And so I think the next municipality that is considering this as an option, and we can obviously assist as far as we can, I think what we'll start to see is lower capital costs, because the market is starting to open up for this kind of discussion in terms of smaller towns, lower loads, and making available funding for these types of things. I think from a technical perspective, very, very possible that we can do other municipalities. It really is about the network configuration, and can the municipality manage this?
Thank you. Premier, anything to add?
No, I think
You covered it then. And one last question for Mr. de Klerk. Please, again, could you just repeat the comparison between Eskom power versus this solar power cost for the average household?
Yeah. I've quickly asked Mr. Chikani, which is our chief engineer. The cost of electricity from Eskom to the municipality is exactly 2.23 rand currently. And we reckon we're going to get in, if this pilot project is successful, at a rate of around about 1.98 rand. It might be cheaper, as Mr. Lester has explained, if the technology becomes more efficient and the cost is lower, because then you can do more with the money available. But we see a small benefit at this stage. The biggest issue is going to be the fact that businesses can conduct business as usual and are not going to have the impact of load shedding. But it should not cost more than the Eskom energy charge.
All right, thank you, Mr. de Klerk, for that clarification. That closes the question and answer portion of this media conference. Thank you to members of the media and the public who have been sending through those questions. I'll now hand over to the Premier for his concluding remarks. And before I do that, I just want to thank the team from Hessequa Municipality and wish you good luck over the next few years. It's going to be tough, but good to see that progress is being made. So all the best for this very important and exciting journey. And thank you for joining us this afternoon for this media briefing. I'll now hand over to the Premier. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you very much, Regan. And before I say thank you, I want to say that I can't wait to be joining the mayor and the municipal manager and your council and your team to be walking amongst a field of solar panels. I really can't wait for that. I promise you the pressure is going to be on to get it done as quickly as possible. And as we all know, this is a pilot. This is where innovation happens, but this is where learning happens. And this is where we're going to learn in this project, not only for the province and Hessequa and the citizens there, but also other municipalities are going to come along and learn as we go. So I want to thank you for being that pilot, for being that trailblazer. While thinking about that, the panels, and also thinking about what the MM was saying about cleaning of them, I think a number of people know that I had to go to Dubai for just about a day to co-chair a ports and logistics meeting. And of course, that's something else that we are facing as a country, our efficiency in our ports. But I couldn't help myself when I went to that meeting to just go and have a look at what the biggest solar-powered energy system, single energy system looks like in the world in Dubai. And when it's completed, it will be a 5 megawatt solar plant. Not a 10 megawatt solar plant, a 5 gigawatt, sorry, not a 10 megawatt, but a 5 gigawatt solar plant. It's 72 hectares of panels, and they're only halfway through the program. But it was interesting because they are now saying they are happy to partner with us, and perhaps this is where one partnership can come in. They're starting to do data management of what happens when a cloud comes over while you're generating power and you might have a 4% dip in your power. How do you beef that up because you've got battery backup? I mean, these are really technical things that I don't know too much about. But when I have those meetings, I think, wow, these partnerships that we can build not only in our province, but around the world to make sure that we find these efficiencies. And it's a very exciting place to be. And I think for you as a municipality, very exciting as one of the first municipalities, small municipalities on the African continent who are stepping out of your comfort zone. So thank you very much for that. I must say thank you very much to the team. You've heard about the months and months. So Mr. Lester, thank you. You, the head of local government, Mr. Graham Paulser, the DG, the Treasury team, the fighting for budgets, the complex meetings that we've had around getting to this point, to the municipality, to the province. Thank you very much to everybody involved behind the scenes, enabling us to get here. This is not about making an announcement, cutting a ribbon, and then the work starts. The work has been running. And I really do appreciate all of the work that's got into it. We now move to the implementation stage. As the MM said, the budget is in the budget discussions, and we will approve that budget within the next week. And of course, then the delivery's got to start. So we want to join you in that process. We will be alongside each other learning, and let's show the citizens that we're prepared to take chances. We're prepared to take some risk here, but we really are working hard at making sure that we're leading the way on the journey to end load shedding and to energy self-sufficiency, should I say, here in the Western Cape. Thank you very much to everybody. And to those of you who've tuned in, thank you. This is exciting news. It's an exciting day, and we look forward to sharing this specific journey with you over the next year, 2 and 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you.